want things to stay the way they've always been. Is that a sin? Then forgive me. You have that power. I'm already there, but it feels like I've got hell in my heart, 'cause I burn for you with the brightest fire. You kiss me like a child who tries to kill a flame with gasoline. What a sweet notion to put the apocalypse in motion. Angel, daughter of God, I worship the ground.
Welcome to the Satellites Podcast Live, Season 2, Episode 4. Tonight's guest star, Roxy Treno, Midian Crosby, and Joshua Adams. Here are your hosts, Aubrey Christine Trujillo and Jerry G. Angelo. You're muted, sir.
Well, we seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. Jerry and them will be around in a couple seconds. Hopefully they're just rejoining. Daniel, you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here now. So we're having some technical issues, but that's all right. Let's I don't know what's all going on, but let's work to get Jerry and Aubrey back in. And Angela, do we want to start bringing out our guests, or what do we want to do? How do we want to make this fun?
What we're going to do is we're going to go with it. You two gentlemen just do a little chit chat. Jerry and Aubrey should be back in just a moment. But until then, if we need to bring the guest on, we will. But I have faith that they will be here soon. So I'm going to take you guys back down to 2.
All right.
I'm out.
All right. Robert, what's new in your world? How are things over there? Because you're in Canada, right?
I am. I'm in St. John's, Newfoundland, and I wasn't expecting to be on the show today. However, I'm glad that I am.
You always have that amazing beard, but that's not your best attribute. I think you are an amazing graphic designer and a wonderful filmmaker. I mean, you're getting all these wonderful credits too for film production. But last week, and I hope you don't mind me asking, live on air in front of everybody.
Yep. Yeah, no worries.
You used to be a private investigator, right?
It's true. For the better part of 20 years, I've done like everything from security, high risk security, private investigating, and it's my background.
My God. So, for me, I think you have like tons of stories. Have you ever like translated that into some kind of script or anything?
Yes and no. I'm actually writing a psychological thriller right now, and I'm incorporating different aspects of like my investigation experience into interweaving the webs of the story arc. And
oh man, I bet that's going to be a bit of a zinger, isn't it?
It's going to be the first script I've ever completely done myself. Cool. And I really hope it'll be an award winner. I am putting everything I have into it, and we'll see what happens.
Is this your first attempt at writing a screenplay?
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, man, way to bite your just to cut your teeth on that, right? Yeah.
Well, I've actually been a part of a like professional writers group.
Good.
For a couple of years now, and I don't say much. I just kind of see what all the other writers are saying. I'm there to learn. Nice. And I've learned a lot. And these are all like actual legitimate professionals that write for TV, film, and I was honored to actually get invited into the group without even being a writer. And I was very fortunate to have learned from all their experiences, and that's what I like about this show too. Is it's a good chance for people within the industry to come on and just talk about their experiences in the industry, and it's a learning experience for any of our guests that come on to learn different aspects of the business, and hear from people actually doing it if you're looking into getting into it, and
Right. I think also too, like not only like learning aspects of business, but as individuals, learning a lot of these creative backstories, where people come from, how they got into doing creative stuff for a living, not for a living, what are they doing, and like what Jerry was saying too, kind of bringing that human existence to it, that the human condition that we all seem to be living in, especially nothing more apparent right now than with COVID and the pandemic, and a lot of the the political situations too. It's a very daunting time, and we're gonna meet some amazing guests, Roxy and Midian and Joshua, and how they're coping through that experience. Hopefully soon when Jerry and Aubrey hop back on, it's like, oh, modern technology, oh, woe is us, curses.
Well, this just like the business, right? All sorts of things are going to happen. There's going to be all kinds of like glitches along the road. Right. And you persevere. This is us doing that right now. We keep moving forward.
Yeah, sleight of hand.
I mean, just like COVID is, like stopped a lot of things in the industry that were happening, and but through it all, people are persevering. They keep going, and they find a way.
The magic orb, panel just popped up. What say thee, Angela?
It's orb of expansion.
It's orb. When you say that, I right away think about my own belt and how much it has expanded during this time.
Expansion, exactly what we did through the pandemic. So, gentlemen, what I'd like to do is to go ahead and introduce Roxy Trujillo for us, and then I'm going to have you guys in here with Roxy, and we'll see how that goes. All right.
All right, sounds good. Bring on Roxy.
Roxy, come on, let's do this.
All right. Hello, Roxy. Look at that. All right. Roxy, how are you?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you.
Excellent. It's great to have you on. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you came from. How you got into the industry, and specifically makeup effects, right?
I do a lot of special makeup effects and makeup, and I do a lot of costume work as well.
Cool.
It's kind of a sort of a 50-50 between both.
Nice.
Yeah. As far as I guess you could say I was raised by a family of makeup people and beauticians. My family owned a beauty college, and my mother was a part of the board of cosmetologists, in the late 60s and 70s, and was just kind of raised around hair and makeup. And it was interesting because I was quite a tomboy growing up, and I didn't, beauty, makeup, and hair, I really didn't take that much interest in it, but I had to learn, and I was around it all the time. But I really enjoyed, I guess you could say, spending summers. We didn't have a video camera. We didn't have, I don't know, I guess some of the luxuries a lot of the luxuries people have now. Right. So we recreated movies, or we wrote our own scripts and spent the summer, building sets and costumes and playing out these events or these stories. And I guess it kind of really, I never grew out of it.
That's awesome. I think that's a lot of our childhoods to some extent. Kind of recreating scenes and reliving all those magical moments that you've seen up on screen and figuring out how did they do that.
Exactly.
The beautiful thing too is Roxy. It sounds like makeup and everything is in your DNA.
I think just being an artist, maybe in general, is in my DNA. That was one thing that my family, in addition to what they all did for their careers, which was working in hair and the beauty industry, but they were all artists. My grandmother, was a professional ceramicist and seamstress and doll maker. There were a lot of painters. Just everybody was an artist in my family. So I kind of don't remember not having art as a part of my life. So I think that's more a part of what's in my DNA than anything. Filmmaking just happens to be a wonderful outlet for all of it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so cool. The Robert was just mentioning before he came on that he's in the middle of writing his first screenplay. It's first script. He's getting a lot of really good feedback. What was like some of your earlier experiences in costuming and being on set and everything?
Well, I suppose one of my earliest experiences would go back to Ghost of Mars, a John Carpenter film that was being filmed here. Nice. And at that point, I was, had an interest in working professionally in the industry. It was just barely, studying some stuff in college and whatnot. But primarily, I was working at a movie theater, and I was playing full time in a band, and did a call for extras. So 13 of us went out there and had a remarkable experience on the set out there. And it was really unique for me because I was so small that I wasn't really that useful to them as in most of the scenes where they've got these huge aliens. Okay. And then they ended up one day with a background actress that didn't show up, and they needed to throw somebody in these outrageously huge prosthetic bosoms. And that was my introduction to somebody that I have a lot of respect for, that still works in the industry here in New Mexico, a woman named Brigida. And she straps these things on me, and I just remember running balls to the wall with these which at this point they had bones to the nipples, and they had lost the bones. So I think we had like cigarette butts stuck through them at this point. And I just remember running it as fast as I could alongside Big Daddy Mars and John Carpenter yelling, keep running, keep running. And, you know, that was sort of my moment of fame. And then I got benched after that for, I started sneezing on set, and they called the medics and, you know, we need some allergy medicine. Someone sneezing profusely. They heard bleeding profusely. Anyway, I got benched in the tent for a while till my allergies settled, and that was my introduction to a wonderful effects crew that's one of the top in the industry, which is K&B Effects.
Yeah.
And I spent, you know, a lot of my days while the guys were out there on set hanging out with those guys. And back then I was nobody. I was there just kind of as a background, interested in what they were doing, hanging out. But little did they know that I was just fascinated and soaking up everything they were doing. And I guess that was one of the coolest moments for me, because those guys really let me just kind of hang out with them and learn and listen. And that was really cool. You don't get that very often.
Right. Oh my God. That's fantastic. It sounds like you're soaking it in, you know, you're getting a bit of an education.
Well, always. I mean, anytime that I have an opportunity to be on set, you know, I don't do background work obviously anymore, but you know, back in the day when I was starting out, any opportunity that you had to go onto a set to watch, learn, listen, you know, was fascinating to me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, with the time right now, it's the pandemic and everything. Have you been able to, work on set or, follow other passions or anything of that nature?
Yes and yes. One thing that the pandemic, which, you know, early on back in March, we weren't sure if it was a pandemic or, you know, the apocalypse for all we knew. But I quickly learned that, you know, the world might stop, but the nature of me needing to be an artist wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
So I needed to find some way to get my jujus out. I needed to find some way to stay busy, something to do. Yeah. And, you know, so that kind of went into a lot of remodeling and repainting and doing weird stuff around the house, but also gravitating towards a lot of my friends that work in the industry who were also out of work and very bored and needed something to do to keep from going absolutely batshit, going crazy. So Jerry, Angelo gave me a call, and
oh, cool.
It was like, you know, do you want to do a movie? And it was just interesting because we kind of started out on OBSCURA with just this need to do something crazy and something creative. When we, you know, who knew if we were ever going to get a chance to do it again or not? You know, in March, you really didn't know. You know, you could let your mind go crazy. But so anyway, we went for it, and so I spent a lot of COVID working on OBSCURA, which was really cool. A lot of that took place in an area which, at the times we were there, wasn't having as big of an issue, or very few reported cases, if any, of COVID. So that was cool. Yeah. And then right at the tail end of OBSCURA, literally, I'd been back, I think, 2 days, and I started on another feature film. Wow. Called The Commando with Michael Jai White and Mickey Rourke. Oh, cool. And that was really cool. And that was kind of in one of those, you know, pocket windows again where, you know, everything was open and people were able to shoot on some of the smaller films. And I think 4 days after that wrapped, I was working on Slayers with on-set effects with Daniel D.C. Casillas as one of his key makeup effects artists. So it's just kind of, I don't know, COVID was really cool. And not really cool, but it was cool because it brought about some unique opportunities for me. And I was able to kind of keep pretty busy at a point when I was starting to get really frustrated and bored.
Right. Yeah, it's tough for everybody. You know, Robert, you're up in Canada there. You know, it's got to be a pretty unique experience too for you. Can you just describe what that might be?
Yeah, it is. Like we've we've done pretty well on the island here as far as COVID goes.
Yeah.
But not a lot of filming going on here either. We just went into another level 5 lockdown. We got the new UK variant here. So we had a little outbreak and stuff like that. And being a small island, we're, pretty isolated. But once it does get here, it spreads really fast. Yeah, I've been doing all my stuff through Zoom meetings, through, I do what I can from here. I would love to get down to Hollywood and be working down there, but it's not feasible right now. Right. But hopefully in the future, we got a bunch of different projects. I was hoping to be down filming with OBSCURA, but I did a lot of my stuff that I was doing from here in Newfoundland, and just helping out wherever I can, doing everything I can.
Cool. It looks like we're about ready to have our next, batch of guests come on. That'll be Midian Crosby and Joshua Adams from Monster Makeup Effects. Oh, yeah.
Hello? Hello? Who's there?
Wait, I found something. What's happening to her?
We need to isolate her.
Eva, I need you. A piece will be yours.
We're gonna die up here.
What the God.
Fuck was that?
My God.
We need to go.
Run!
Oh,
Wow.
man. That was tremendous. Oh, Midian, Josh, how are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for having us.
Good.
It's
Good.
funny
Yeah,
now because I decided to go ahead and put that director's reel together and start working towards the next step of things right as the pandemic was starting. And it feels like it was like a different world right now. So,
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. It totally is. You know, we were talking off camera originally, you know, about all the new, you know, things that you guys are you know, doing right now to occupy your time and to take over the world.
Yes.
Yeah, ideally. Yeah, that's the end goal, I guess. Yeah.
So we're trying to keep ourselves safe right now, and you know, staying kind of out of the game for a little bit, and exploring other passions. And for now, I'm actually doing some celebrity chefing in the homes of just a couple of. We live kind of in between the main Walking Dead studio and what used to be Pinewood Studio, which is now Trillium.
Okay.
And so, you know, I know a lot about picky actors and what they need and kind of how to not be starstruck around them. And I've been exploring food and making all kinds of different cuisine throughout 2020. It's been the only thing that's really been like getting me motivated to get out there and do some stuff. And it's really been kind of wonderful to explore that passion because it started when I was 8. You know, not quite as early as makeup effects, but almost around the same time. But working in a kitchen sucks. But nowadays, you can kind of do some cool stuff with cooking that isn't just working in the back of the kitchen. So that's kind of cool. But movies and effects is such a huge part of my heart.
Yeah.
And you know, I actually got this tattoo just before COVID as well. It says,
Where's that?
The dream never dies, and it's the font from The Thing.
Oh, that's cool.
The font from
Allow me to help you.
yeah, there we go.
I love your spokesmodel. His name's Josh.
Wood Runner, Nightbreed, which is where I got my name from. I had it legally changed when I was 15. I love horror. Alien. So, you know, it unfortunately, I don't know, I had a reaction to the red, and so some of it got a little bit damaged, so I'll have to have it fixed up. But of course, I get this, you know, I have my director's reel done. I get this tattoo. I'm like, you know, in it, this is like a memorial for a friend of mine who like struggled to act his entire life, and he wrote a book called The Dream Never Dies, and so. It's just like, you know, there is something there that just will never, ever go away. And I'm sure it's something that we're going to be back into soon. But right now it's cooking for me and artificial intelligence and coding and business startup projects.
Yeah, I you know,
that's fun for me.
I listened to an interview and I read a couple of articles that Mark Cuban was talking about what his side hustle would be if he had a side hustle, and he said it would be coding like Amazon Alexa skills, and so like writing the code and things like that for people to, you know, put in their homes and, you know, accomplish tasks. And I thought, well, you know, if a billionaire is giving you their side hustle idea, you know, look into it. You know, it might be worth it. And so I looked into it a little bit. Started doing some coding and having some success with that.
Cool.
And in the meantime, I had another business idea based around a product idea that I had, and just came to a point where I decided to just build it. I don't want to talk about that too much.
Sure.
I know myself well enough that I'll say way too much. But started to build one, and then, you know, kind of got to a point where I talked to some folks business-wise that I trusted, and they said, you know, it seems like you've got something. Maybe see if you can get a business plan put together and get the process started. And that all has, you know, what my little diversion, my 2-week diversion was supposed to be is now 5-6 months in. So I've been keeping myself busy, and you know, it hasn't really been movie related, but it's a combination and a harnessing of a lot of skills that I gained confidence in with filmmaking.
I was going to say, like, just like, you know, with Roxy and her story and like, you know, what we've done throughout her career, you know, having the skills as a special effects artist kind of gives you that freedom to create like a different reality all the time. You're in this state of chaos all the time because you're working in film. And then all of a sudden they're asking for something that wasn't scripted, and you're having to like just absolutely come up with it on the spot, or something breaks and you have to fix it. And there's just like all these challenges that you have to go through that everyday people don't experience at all. And
Right.
so what it does is it creates people that can shift and move and learn on a constant basis. And I think it kind of puts us in kind of a different mentality altogether. You know, we've done costuming work, and like it's just basically like any director looks at me or looks at us and says, hey, here's this problem, here's this thing that I need. And we go, all right, let me think about it and see what we can do. Just like, it's not like you go open a book and figure out how it was done before. Sometimes that works. Especially these days, there's a lot more information out there. But like most of the time, you have to just create it. And that's kind of like an alien concept to the general population, you know. And so there's that creativity involved in all of filmmaking, all of this crafting world that we're a part of. That is just, it's really exciting, but it keeps you on your toes, and it's that roller coaster that's super heavy, because the downs are really down and the ups are really up, and it's just not everybody can handle that part either. So, yeah.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. It's such a wonderful perspective. You know, you've I think the other thing too is being creative and flexible with, you know, those situations, being able to pivot on, you know, at the drop of a dime. You know, you got to have that knowledge of materials integrity to know what's going to work, and that basic knowledge of physics, you know, for the situation, in makeup, in costuming, in prop fabrication, you name it, in cuisine. Holy cow, you know, and now in coding for Joshua there.
Yeah, coding and prototyping, and I mean, I'm actually like, it's kind of funny. I built a prototype, and then I built a little workstation out of Technic Legos the other day. So I'm trying to actually, you know, use my Lego skills in terms of helping me get some work done legitimately.
That's awesome.
You know, like I spent months during during COVID building with Lego, and I really got to the point it was like, okay, I either have to find a way to monetize this in some way, or I've got to get back to work doing something serious. So, you know, at least now I can try and help myself get a little bit of work accomplished.
It's all creativity, isn't it?
It is, and that's, you know, it's a weird sort of specialty engineering is the best way that I've ever come up with to put it, because it's such a broad yet specific skill set that also requires a great deal of confidence in your own ability to work with materials and to use things for their unintended purposes in many cases. I find with special effects, you know, you have to be able to and willing to tear things apart, make them from scratch, and make it the way you want it to, if you intend it to work the way you want it to, because things are so one-off and original most of the time.
Yeah.
And you know, then you get into scaling that and reproducing things for shows to maintain continuity, and that whole, you know, that opens up a whole different ball game of
magical.
Is that your phone? Your magic phone?
That's right. Magical challenges.
Time to give my old dog some her meds. So,
oh, okay. Oh, no worries.
One of the things I was thinking about with like his, like what I call Lego mind, is one of the reasons that he got involved with monster makeup effects, and the image that you just showed of him holding up the heart, and I had the chest there. That's from a movie called Eat that we did in Denver with Jimmy Weber. And
I love that movie.
Oh God, it's so much fun, and we did so many different effects for that. But he ended up being my blood guy. I handed him some blood, bullet rigs that I had purchased from an amazing artist that I had worked with in Pittsburgh, Steve Cullen. And I said, I need these kind of cleaned out. I don't really do a whole lot of the mechanism stuff. Like I really wanted to be like that Jim Henson, like, you know, animatronics person, but it turns out that I'm the more organic, sculpting, feeling, painting kind of person. And I lucked out that my husband turned out to be like the perfect mind to complement that. Because there's a lot of kind of rigging that has to be made and created to kind of like make blood flow and make, you know, these bullet gags and stuff. And so like I handed him these things that I don't really understand. And I said, I need these cleaned out. And he kind of looked at it and he's like, I think I can redesign this so that it doesn't need this battery and it doesn't, you know. And I was like, okay, just make sure it works. Thanks. And it ended up being like this really cool thing that that he excelled in. And so like anytime that I have this crazy kind of thing that I need to do something, I look at him and go, can you help me? And he creates these things.
And it does happen. I was just thinking of a film that, you know, we did not too long ago where I had to build something that allowed a mouth to look like it was opening and a jaw to so, you know, just a matter of thinking about what we had to work with and how we had to rig it up to make that happen. And, you know, I spend a lot of time at Home Depot, you know, and I love, you know, that
is the best art supply store.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, you know, it's one of those things that I can't help myself just build from scratch these days. You know, and you know, it is exciting when you get to do that. It's also very challenging, and sometimes, you know, in the case of some of the rigs I've built, you know, I build them, I put them together, and, you know, they work well for me. And then I put them in the box and send them off, to, you know, for a cross-country plane ride with Midian, and she gets to set, and I get the text messages like, hey, this isn't working. And it's like, oh, no, you know, I don't know what to do. You know, it's like you're furiously texting while you're in the middle of doing something else, and then, you know, sometimes it works, and sometimes you just get more angry texts.
And this is what, dang, I should have budgeted or had them budget for another technician to come out. We just wanted to do this, you know. Then they're really narrow, and you're always trying to work with the producers and try and, like, you know. But then sometimes you're like, dang, like there's never enough money, and there's never enough time. No matter how much you have, it's just never going to be enough.
Yeah, I think that's a bumper sticker. You know, never enough time, never enough money. You know, but make the impossible happen. Well, Roxy, do you ever have those experiences too? Where you have
well, I'm just, as I'm listening to you guys talk, the only thing I keep thinking is, you know, how often that, especially in special makeup effects, but in props and in any of the specialty departments, you come across, you know, people will kind of look at you like, you know, what could you possibly know about any one thing, because you wear so many hats. And, you know, in retrospect, when you think about it, it's like I've had to call on so many resources and so many skills and so many different parts of myself, as they were saying, to figure out how to do something, to figure out how to make something that doesn't exist come to life, or to make it work, or to make it believable. And, you know, sometimes I think, you know, it's not about wearing too many hats. It's about the expectation that we literally sometimes have to have 7 heads, you know, functioning at once to one body, and it's all got to make sense. And you're pulling on all, you know, all these different skill sets. And that's one of the things that I love about this industry, but it's also what draws me to it, is it does allow for that. It allows for you to open up your inventory of, you know, every skill, every trick you've got as an artist and as a creative person, and find a new way to use them and invent something with them. And so, yeah, I agree with a lot of what they're saying.
Yeah, that's pretty fantastic. Now, you know, Midian, Josh, you touched up on, you know, how you guys work together, which is a remarkable cohesive unit, even when you have to MacGyver something from, you know, from coast to coast, right? How how did Midian? Yeah, I know you grew up with your love of monsters, makeup, and cuisine. How did you get into the makeup effects part and the artistry? And then how was it that you were able to I guess rope Josh into it?
Yeah, I've been doing makeup effects and such for I think maybe about 7 years, 4, 5, something like that, 5 to 7 years by the time I met Josh. And I actually grew up in Colorado, so we both did. And there's not a lot of film in Denver. Didn't know a whole lot. Didn't know anybody that growing up that did any of that stuff. But I was always fascinated by the Harryhausen puppet, and like especially like Clash of the Titans was like a big one. And like in addition to that, like my parents let me watch anything, and I got like HBO when I was 12 in my own room. And so like I watched all kinds of inappropriate stuff at a very impressionable age. One of my first loves was at 6 years old, I saw the premiere of Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I loved Michael Jackson at the time. I also loved him as this werewolf and this zombie, and so I was shown a lot of Hindu and Buddhist kind of like iconography. My parents are Buddhists, and we went to India when I was 4, and so like I think a lot of like this idea, like I have another tattoo here that is a Vajrapani, and it looks kind of cool. But what it is it's a fierce protector. And so like, so at a very young age, like everything that was kind of scary seemed good to me. And so like I had this kind of love of dark things from a very young age. Very kind of impressioned upon my mind. And then I saw John Carpenter's The Thing when I was like about 9. My friend brought me to a Christmas party, and they just plopped me in front of the TV, and lo and behold, the movie was on, totally inappropriate, and the dog scene freaked me out. And that was like, I think the really truly first time where I was like, oh my God, I know this isn't real. This looks so real. I cannot stand it. And so, films like that just really, really made an impression on me. And then my brother showed me like Fangoria magazines and different things. He used to work in a mask company. And so like, I thought all this stuff was cool, but just kind of like unreachable. I didn't have a way to kind of find this. This is back before YouTube and the internet, really, like all this stuff. Like, you had to know somebody. And so, I did a bunch of other stuff first, and worked in sales, and realized I had to have art in my life. Worked into getting a desk job, and then realized that sucked, and I needed art in my life. And I opened up a Fangoria magazine, and I see 2 ads. Ad for Joe Blasco School. I'm sure these have been in there before, and one for the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. But I didn't notice them before, and it just like. A huge light bulb went off in my head, and I said, "Oh my God, you can go to school for this?"
Yep, nice.
What I have to do? That's absolutely me. And so I looked at some different schools. Ended up deciding on the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I got a good education. A lot of people don't like that school, and it costs way too much now, or it did before it closed, and all this stuff. But I got to do so many cool stuff. In school, and I had a great time.
It worked for you.
Yeah, it totally did. So I have an industrial design degree specializing in special effects. So that means I can sculpt, mold, cast. I can work with metals and woods and do rapid prototyping. I'm totally overqualified for most of the stuff that I do, but it's a way of like making your brain function into kind of that reality of creating something from start to finish. Whether it's painting, airbrushing, putting feathers on it, and hair, and punching hair, and all these different skills. It's absolutely remarkable how many skills it takes to do all of this stuff. And that's why when you go to LA, You have people that are hair punchers. You have people that are painters. You have people that are sculptors. You go anywhere else, like say Colorado, or a lot of places. We're in Georgia right now, but you get into these areas and you have to do it all because you're it, or you have a very small team, and you're working in independent film. And so I've really enjoyed working, like I'd say the first 12 years or so in independent film. There's a lot of art there. There's a lot of get up and go. There's a lot of camaraderie, a lot of passion. You get to be in control of your entire department, and it's wonderful because you don't have a bunch of producers saying exactly what you have to do. And then there's this other side that we've experienced where it's benefits, hourly wage that's appropriate, double time after 2 hours, and you just you go, oh, union is just so great. And then there's also kind of a dark side to that as well. There's a lot less passion. There's a lot more kind of bureaucratic decision making, and you just kind of, even if you're the head of something, you're not really the head of anything. And it's just there's kind of a downside to that too. It's wonderful. I wish everybody could get paid what they should be getting paid. Union does help with that, except for the people working in the shops. And those are the people that are sculpting and molding and casting. There's still, just now, there's been one kind of big development in California where a shop has been, special effects shop has gone union. And so, there's a big disparity between people that put the makeup on set that are making, $55 an hour base in some cases, depending on which union you're in, and what the contract says. But then that goes up after 8, it goes up again after 10, and you're getting all these, different penalties and different things. So you're making bank if you're put on set and you're applying and painting. And the people busting their butts in the studios, sculpting and molding and casting and running all these pieces and prepping them and even pre-painting them and doing the really sweaty work, not to kind of downgrade anybody working on set. But there's kind of a world of difference between that. And they're making maybe $20 to $40 an hour. As, for an entire day, probably a flat rate, probably taking it out of their own, doing their own taxes, having to pay their own insurance, all this stuff. They don't get all those extras. And so what I would really love to see is kind of a way to make those kind of teams work better together and get better representation for the people working in the studios. That's really hard for independent studios too, because for a studio, having to pay people union rates is outrageous. And so I understand both sides of that. I've been a producer on my own films as well, so I can empathize with producers out there when I'm talking to them. And there's just always this give and take. So, not to kind of go off on a tangent, but that is kind of something that I thought was really exciting over the last year to kind of see some development.
Yeah, I got a question for both of you, for all three of you actually. What would your advice be to somebody who's looking to get into the business, right? They want to get into doing effects and makeup, and so where do they go? Where do they start?
Become you know what I would do, honestly, if you want to honestly do it, become a shop assistant if you have a studio near you, or legitimately, I mean, I hate to say it, but become a PA. Become a PA, a PA gig on a big show, and if you can survive that and thrive, you'll do fine. You'll do fine.
A lot of people get into this and have no idea what this is like.
When we came to Atlanta, I did a few projects just going around for reality TV, just reality TV shows. I would go and just PA and do I would move lights, I would go get lunch orders, I would do all of this stuff. And really at that point it was just to earn money, because we're trying to just get some sort of foothold in Atlanta. And really, I mean, it taught me a lot about what needed to happen. And then once I was able to go and start working with The Walking Dead and some larger shows, it became, I was at least able to translate, scale some of those ideas, and then, start contributing sooner.
Hey guys, we just had Jerry and Aubrey join us. I'm gonna pop them into the studio, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna bounce
Sounds
out,
good.
and
Great
I'll
talking
put
to you.
Jerry in.
You guys can stay.
Hey,
Yeah.
please stay. Hi.
Yeah. Oh my
Wow.
gosh, the spectrum went out in our area. Literally like at 6 o'clock, and then that's exactly when everything started. We just got done saying hi to everyone and kind of getting everyone briefed. But anyway, you guys continue. We'll listen on and we'll jump in as we have questions and stuff. But good job. I think we'll see what the reviews say.
So yeah, I was just asking them, like if you were new to the business or you were wanting to get into this business, where would you start?
Yeah, Roxy, what do you have any insight into that right now?
Yes, absolutely. And I largely agree with what they were saying in terms of, especially with the special makeup effects. To really get into the industry and to get to where you intend to go, you've got to. It takes some work. You've got to kind of start at square one, like they were saying. Get as much opportunity as you can on set, in whatever means, whether you're assisting craft services as a PA, as intern, whatever. But first getting that knowledge and just sort of absorbing and learning as much as you can on set. Now, granted, a lot of special effects takes place on closed sets, so you're not going to see a lot, but it kind of gets your foot in the door a little bit. But ultimately, your end goal is you've got to find, like they said, a shop. Special effects, the larger scale the films get, it requires a team of people, both on set and off set, as they were saying in the shop. And those are very tight knit groups of people, and they can be very protective over what they do, because you have to be innovative. You have to come up with your own ways of doing your blood mix, your own colors, your own ways that you do your rigs, what pressures. There's a whole lot of things that are kind of like top secret, CIA on need to know basis. So you're not going to get that necessarily by going to school or anywhere. I personally haven't done Stan Winston, but a good friend of mine is very successful, and I work under him. And he did actually went and did the 16-month thing at the Stan Winston school. But
Cool.
even still, it required him linking up then with a bigger crew of people that have a shop and have the resources. And for me, I do a lot of work with Daniel DeCicasius with On-Set Effects, and Brian Percal he's with another effects crew. But that's really what you have to do. You have to rookie it out, and you have to hang out at shop, and you have to get to know these people, and you have to show a willingness to learn. You have to show a loyalty in the sense of the ability to keep your mouth shut and know when it's appropriate to watch, when it's appropriate to act, and you really pay your dues. It's not something that you walk out of a school with a degree and anybody gives a shit. You earn your keep. And a lot of the jobs on a film set are like that. You earn your keep, and it's about making connections and establishing connections with people and finding the right crews of people, whether it be a makeup crew or whether it be the special effects crew. But
right,
it doesn't just happen by going to school, unfortunately.
Yeah. Speaking of shops, back when Monster Makeup Effects was in Denver, I used to hang out there and, kind of just like scratch my head at all the cool stuff that you had brewing at your shop. I think, here's a nice catalog of all the top, choice cuts, I should say, that were offered in your studio. there. I mean, you guys gave classes, you did workshops. I think one day, Josh, I came over and you showed me how to use your blood jet and stuff, and we were trying to figure out. No, you were trying to figure out. I was just a passerby or observer. Trying to figure out the right PSI setting. How does this look? It's so fun.
It was, and we did a lot of fun things. I think, in that studio that you came and visited so many times, that was probably, that was our favorite studio. And like Roxy was saying, a lot of those things, the air pressures and the blood mixes and the rigs that you use, it's all, it's all trial and error, and it's all, making it work and testing and, spraying blood all over the place and realizing that the pressure is way too high. And hopefully you make that mistake while you're in the shop and not on set.
Right.
And so that's why you test, that's why you build, and then, you do everything you can to put good tools in the hands of the people that are on set. Know that you've built something reliable, and that will work for those folks too. And I actually, I was strangely fortunate that I had so much of a background in my early film career, if you will, doing that studio work, doing that behind the scenes work. And then as we came to Atlanta and I started getting more established, I had the opportunity to go and do a great deal of set costuming for both background and principal actors. And it was a very interesting juxtaposition because I had a very full knowledge of everything that was going on behind the scenes and everything that I needed to be able to work, not in front of the camera, but closer to the camera with the people that were in front of the camera at that. So a huge appreciation for both sides of the project.
Yeah, that's fantastic. One of the things that comes to mind too is that on-set experience. I remember on the set of Motel London 2, where you guys were able to, build some heads of one of our actors, kids, their heads exploding, and that was so much fun to be in the roughs, with you guys. Getting that rigged up. I think the first time, with the first head that blew up, I yelped out of excitement, and the director, Ryan, he certainly scorned me, which he should have. And but luckily, the second blow up, we got the sound that went with it too. So my yelp wasn't in there.
Yeah, one of my favorites. That was one of my favorites. And I remember that one too because we had built that hinge skull, and that one hinge went over super slow at the very end and fell over, and so it looked like it was extra awesome. But and when that reel came up, one of my favorite blood spurts is when when stabbed in the neck, it sprays up just inches. We worked really hard to make sure it didn't spray up into the ceiling, and it was just a couple of inches we could see. So
because we had plastic only over so much of the room, there's
right,
like on the curve.
It always goes where you don't.
Right,
for sure.
Right. Hey, Jerry, what was it like working with Roxy on the set of Obscura?
Well, I'll go back a little bit. Roxy and I actually also worked on Arctic as well. That was our other feature film. So we've done American Warfighter and then Arctic and then Obscura. And Roxy stole the show. She was wonderful in Arctic. We had some what was interesting. I'll get into Obscura in a second too, but it was interesting what you guys, Midian and Josh and Roxy, you guys deal with is like learning things on the fly as obstacles come in. Like, we had such cold sets working in the evenings that the prosthetics and some of the stuff, the bloods and stuff we were working with on a horror film were being incredibly affected. And we had to come up on the spot with different ways of doing things, even getting down to getting tattoos come onto people's skin. Temperatures, there's little things that just happen, that just are interesting. Working with Roxy on Obscura, she was incredible. We got started way back in oh my gosh. We started probably getting the script started and the concept of the story way back in, I want to say February or March, right? Kind of like
it was in March, I believe.
right when COVID had just started, and we had to change gear. We were going to do a different project, and so, you know, me and Joe Lujan and the writer Lachlan Jones, we were coming up with ideas. We had the idea for a creature, but we didn't know a look or. Here's Obscura. Here's one of our concept arts that we started from the beginning by Joe Lujan and Carcass Studios. Joe being one of the other directors. She came up with this Bible of all these different possibilities to the creature, which was fantastic, you know, and it's just very creative. And so we left it into a way it got to create itself, and then from that point, Roxy had, gosh, I don't know, you did so many different prototypes, different ways. You put little He-Man characters together, mixed with G.I. Joe, mixed with aliens, and all these different size things. We tried different things as far as what we liked and not, and it was quite a process. We had a lot of time, and what we have so far is is fantastic.
Just to chime in about the action figures, part of what made Obscura very exciting and challenging early on was because this was literally the first part of COVID, when people were like going crazy to buy toilet paper, commodities, anything and everything. Like you couldn't go to Walmart or any store. There was like somebody bought every craft paint there was, and all the glue was gone. And so, you know, it became trying to think of clever ways or industrial ways of doing things. So at one point, I'm like at AutoZone looking for adhesives, and you know, I'm digging through my kids' action figure toy bins to find parts, and I'm using, you know, silicone molds to facet pieces. So it was sort of a matter of necessity because that's what I had access to. But anyway, it just made it that much more exciting to figure out how to do things.
We're actually going to show a little teaser. Yep. This has kind of been we haven't really released this. It was kind of put together very quickly for AFM just because we had just wrapped and we had to throw something together. It's not sound design. It's just very, very basic, but it gives you a flavor of what we've done. Again, not color correct or anything like that. And we even spelt it wrong on the end to make it sure that it doesn't get, if it gets out there, we know it's our test run. But Angela's going to go ahead and show a teaser here in a second, and then we'll chat about it. I don't even, very few people have seen this.
The golden orb.
I already showed that teaser, but I can show that again. I was going to show it before.
Never mind.
The very first one. The very first one.
Oh, you showed the, okay.
No, so, I showed the one you're speaking of already.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm going to show the very first one you guys did.
Okay, so what we did here is this was the very first concept. We were going to do a different project.
Thanks, Angela.
And then COVID happened, so we changed direction from a larger project to something that was very small. It just started with 3 of us. Again, one of our other directors, Joe Lujan, was there, and we'll go ahead and show that right now.
A new warfare. Warfare.
Obscura. Hello. We've got.
So, and so that was just a little concept that we were putting together before we even had script actually, and we just kind of knew the idea and the vibe that we wanted. Of course, since then, Aubrey here is the lead, the female lead of the franchise, kind of like the Sigourney Weaver. And anyway, so to answer your question in one sentence, Roxy was wonderful. But, you know, as any production on location, low budget and stuff like that, it gets very taxing. We have long days, long nights, or however it goes. And we went out to Goldfield, Nevada 3 or 4 times now, and just always, you know, blessed with the team sticking together and creativity and getting the job done.
Nice. That's cool. It sounds like it was a pretty well-rounded 4-course meal of a project. So that's great. We can't wait to see, you know, what the full thing looks like too. It's doing these type of projects where they're, you know, during COVID, during the pandemic, you know, going out and being like with Josh and Midian pivoting and doing something new and creative, starting new businesses. And then with, you know, Roxy continuing to be able to do, film production, during a pandemic. I mean, I think that's all, you know, encouraging and very awe-inspiring. So my hat's off to you guys. All I can do is stay here in front of a computer and talk to people.
You do a great job of that.
One of the things I wanted to,
because I'm full of hot air.
I wasn't sure if you guys touched on this yet, but I had a question for Josh and Midian. You guys have both worked on the Walking Dead and also Jay and Silent Bob. Can you share a little bit of, say, if things start to get very busy or heated or on the go, you know, what's the difference between those two types of genres that you're working on when you're working on something that's more comedy or dramatic based and one that's so creature based or effects based? Like what's the difference between those on those larger scale productions?
Well, I mean, Walking Dead is its own kind of entity. They are, an oiled machine, and they have been doing it for a while now, and they've got a system, and it's unlike, I mean, as much as like I've said, The Walking Dead is like independent film with a budget. It's just as hard. Everyone on that cast and crew are working their butts off. It is a hard show. Nobody has it easy on that show. But they've got great catering, and they've there's things that are different as far as the genres go or the entities go. But
when I stepped onto the Walking Dead set for the first time, I had just come from Colorado, and then I had just done a few gigs. And I remember the first time I set foot on the Walking Dead set, I thought, I've made a huge mistake. At this point, I'm surrounded by people who are out in this performing at a level that I am not capable of handling. And so that was about my first 2 or 3 weeks of going to set and being on set. And by the end of the season, I was in love with it. I wanted to do it all the time. And it was strange because I came to Atlanta as a special effects technician, and by the time I had finished my first year here, I had become a set costumer, which is not the career trajectory that I intended to go in, but it just happened to work out that way. And then we managed to maintain connection with the special effects community, and we ended up, and that kind of translated as well into doing a little bit of specialty costuming work, and also working, and then kind of on the flip side of the onset, we were actually in the shop working on the Iron Bob suit for Jay and Silent Bob under Robert Kurtzman.
Before that, the Haunting of Hill House was the first production.
So good.
And Robert Kurtzman and his team are fantastic. They're such a good group of people to work with, and it's everybody's different. Every shop is different. Every producer is different. Every director is different. And everyone has a different flavor. But there's definitely a difference between independent and IATSE, union, SAG productions. And it's almost hard. I mean, it's not hard to put your finger on, but there's just so much subtlety in there as well as kind of the big, hey, it's money. They've got a lot more money. A lot more money. Oh my goodness, they're wasting so much money, and you're just like, as somebody who has produced short films and independent stuff that's worked on like nothing budgets. There's a lot of impressive stuff that happens when you're working with no budget, and you can make those changes really quickly, and you can kind of like pull stuff out of nowhere, But there's certain places where having a lot more money helps in a lot of ways. But there's times on set when you're just like, we could have shot this already. If we just had 50 fewer people, just like logging up this whole thing, you've got 150 people on set, doing all these different things, and sometimes it's extraneous. But it's hard to know exactly, as a producer, what I would do to change that. In the union world, sometimes when you have this rotating cast of people, you need all those people in order to fill in these gaps because they're doing so much less, and they might be thrown on set as a day player and have to do this one little narrow aspect of something. Whereas on an independent film, you're going to have one person that is doing the job of 8 people sometimes, and they're working 17 hours on a day rate. Whereas the union folks are hoping they hit their meal penalties at lunch.
Can I'd like to comment on sort of where she's sort of talking about the difference between working on an independent set versus working on a union show. And I absolutely, agreed that, the paycheck is terrific on a union show, and the benefits and all of those, it's career changing as far as the money goes. But I shouldn't even say but, because it's not a but, it's just the difference. And it's something that I personally really like about working on independent films. And it's where, like in my case, it's often where costume design and special makeup effects and special effects all crash into each other head to head, and it becomes sort of a tandem unit, and all of those elements get to work together on a much smaller scale, enabling the artists to do a lot more, to utilize a lot more of their skills. As she was saying, on a larger show like The Walking Dead, you're either in the shop, making prosthetic pieces, or if you're on set, you're putting on specific prosthetics onto specific background, or you're a painter, or you do that one thing, and generally you do it every day, unless, like she was saying, you're an additional, you might go onto different sets and do different things. But on an independent film, you get to sort of merge all of your skills together and do things differently that you're just not allowed to do or in a situation to do on union shows. And I love that because there's some beautiful, wonderful, magical things that happen when you get these creative people together and you throw them in the trench and they figure out how to do something. And I personally really like the fantasy, science fiction, where all of those things kind of crash right into each other, and I get to explore my skills and use my talents sort of across the board with those things.
Nice.
We say put people in the trenches. Every film, I mean, you're building a family, and you finish that, and it's like you've gone to war together. It's like that's where you get the stories, and it's like if it wasn't hard, then it has a different flavor of accomplishment. When you finish something that you thought was impossible, and you actually finish it, and it worked, and that is like the best high you can get. There's nothing like it. And sometimes, it doesn't work, and it's awful, and that's pretty bad too. But luckily, usually, it works in the favor if you're, working hard. Yeah.
just as long as every day it ends in a big blood blast, we're good.
I love that.
As
Or a
long as
head
it's not-
explosion. Wow.
Yes, head explosions. Bring on the watermelons.
That's wild.
If you guys get a chance, you can watch Arctic. This is a poster that we have here, right there, and we do have a head explosion in that. Have you seen it, Daniel?
It's still on my queue. I haven't seen it yet. That looks spectacular. I know, right?
We have one of the most incredible, second to your guys's, of course, head explosions. Towards the end, it's just alarming.
Cool.
And of course, like I told you before, Roxy was involved with that with Arctic, and we had some great obstacles. And again, like you guys are saying too, you just the creativity comes out, and it's almost like everyone's a producer. It's like MacGyver. I always call Roxy MacGyver. She has so many different assets. She can do. There's I haven't seen you not being able to achieve anything. So
cool.
No.
Oh man.
Never tell a director. Directors will ask for some outrageous things sometimes, but never say no. You say, well, that'll cost X number of dollars and take this many days, or I'll need this many team members in order to do that. There's always a way, but you have to explain it and think about it.
Yeah.
We'll give you $50 and one guy.
Here's a Twinkie. What can you do with this?
Yeah, and a twig. Yeah, I was gonna say a needle and a string, and go make some magic with that.
Well, and to that point too, limitation does breed innovation. So you do, I would imagine, you become very surprised in what you can do with all kinds of different things. It's like, hey, we can't do it this way, the way that you described perhaps, but here's another way that we can innovate, and also you have to shoot it at this angle too. I think those are just part of the creative dialogue that would probably happen on set as well as in any bathroom stall that I've had recently. That's weird. Anyway.
Well, you technically could be sitting on a toilet right now, and we wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, courtesy flush.
That was something that was a unique challenge with OBSCURA was, on one hand, having to be innovative about how to make props, how to make specialty things that fit into the theme, that are very futuristic and whatnot, and then to come up with, okay, how do we transport these from New Mexico to literally the middle of the Death Valley desert in summer, and how storing them, or even the longevity of being able to dress an outdoor set into something science fiction during the day when you've got 120,000 you're dead degrees heat, and then you've got to get all that set, and then you've got to go out in the freezing cold and do blood rigs and running all this stuff at night, and so yeah, I don't know, just the innovation and the challenges of independent films and obscure places and wonderful people. I don't know, you just kind of sorry, he inspired me for a moment and reminded me about the challenges that we had with
I love the point you brought up, Daniel, of being able to have a collaborative director though too, because if you can share your creative idea with somebody who's open to saying, oh, and I know how I can make that work with camera, or I know how I can make that work, like you said, with with specific camera angle, or an actor that's willing to go there, or that kind of thing. I think that's definitely more common in an indie setting as well. Yeah. So I think that's kind of a more fun. I find it to be a more fun aspect as well. But I loved the point that you brought up, and I think that's very true. You have to be able to have a dialogue. So you have to have somebody who's willing to go there with you.
Yeah, most definitely. Not everybody are willing to do that. Maybe the director has a very specific vision. The production team has a very specific vision. Who's to say? Like Midian was saying, everybody's different. To that too, having that insight, being in makeup and costuming and everything. like what Josh was saying is like, hey, be that PA, get on set. I mean, you are going to incur that creative dialogue and that language and that know-how to apply to those situations later on. And that's a world of amazing knowledge. To Roxy, you were mentioning transitioning stuff, into like extreme heat and everything. I remember on Eat with Midian. I wasn't there or anything, but you were telling me like some of the creative things that you've had to do, which is very temperature sensitive, is having to make like prosthetics and things and props out of chocolate to be eaten on camera.
I like that one. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Food grade prosthetics always have their own set of challenges, let alone heat. But
right.
Anyways, yeah.
The stuff that you guys come up with is absolutely amazing. When you're able to do some prosthetics or some type of makeup effect with lemon meringue pie, let me know because I'm a fan.
Excellent. Yes,
keep that in mind.
Do you guys have a particular? Do you have a particular thing that you've done that was absolutely frustrating that you just had to walk away from? Like a particular thing somebody wanted that you just couldn't do?
You don't have to name names.
We've got a good one. So one of the things I was going to say about collaboration is one of the challenges I've seen in I would say most of the effects that we've had shot is that there's not a lot of dialogue. I wish there was more dialogue with the director of photography because oftentimes we know better how to shoot something so that it sells. Right. And a lot of times with the lighting or with the angle, it just kind of ruins the effect. And it's kind of a bummer when you put a lot of work into something and you see them shooting it incorrectly, but you don't know or you aren't able to kind of like tell them that that's not going to work. And it's heartbreaking. Only once have we ever walked out of a set. And it was this particular DP actually had come into the studio after we were already working on this project. And he just started telling me I was doing things wrong because he worked on some effects thing like once several years ago and had to redo X, Y, and Z and all this other stuff. And I was like, no, man, this is the way it is. This is what we're doing. We got to shoot it from, this. It was like a broken nose. Like he wanted to change the broken nose. It was already done. And so he was already kind of like, I saw that we had a little bit of tension. And so as we were going onto the set, I tried to really be cool. I was like, maybe it's just me, but this kind of rubbed me wrong. And I just feel like a little bit like this could be a bad situation. But I was like, we're going to make it work. It's going to be fine. And we built this green screen rock to hit our actors, get the broken nose and all this stuff, right? And we get everything into place. The prosthetic is on, and we're getting close to shooting it. And this DP looks at us, grins with this kind of maniacal grin, opens up a razor blade, and slices our green screen rock as he's grinning at us. And Josh and I looked at each other, and we were like, "I'm done here. Are you done?" I said, yeah. And I looked at the director and I said, I'm going to come back and reshoot this anytime you want, but I cannot work with this. That was entirely disrespectful. If I'd taken his camera and, done something with it, we spent time and effort on this without even a word. He destroyed it. And I don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so that was one time where we really literally had to walk off the set during shooting. So
yeah, you drove home. Yeah, that was what happened after that. That's you never want to walk away from a project. I don't think there's been many challenges that we've really faced that we've walked away from since we started working in special effects together, that we've taken on challenges I certainly don't think we would have.
I know yesterday was the anniversary of Sarah that lost her life on set here in Georgia with the Midnight Train, Midnight Rail incident. And so, like, you know, just kind of put it out there, walking away from an unsafe situation. You know, I know a lot of us are very invested, and I had to do that once as well. I had to walk away from a feature because I felt it was unsafe, and a lot of people actually came down with lung issues and other problems from that set, and most people didn't get paid. So it was like a really bad situation, making it worse. And I'm really glad that I got out of it when I did, but it's incredibly hard to even leave, even when it's astronomically a bad idea to be there, because we all put so much heart into our work that that's a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that Midian said is, I'm going blank on it. Give me a second, I'll chime back in. I waited to chime in and I lost it. Give me a second.
Well, while we're waiting, as we're going to be closing up pretty soon, we're going to go ahead and show our trailer of Arctic. Again, like Roxy was our makeup on there. So let's go ahead and show that.
Costumes on that one.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, cool. So there's so many different versions of our trailer. That was the one that was composed by Corey Wallace. We do have one with the sound design in there as well, but from our writer-director, Tom Bocci. But what were some of your, what was the challenge on that one for you, Roxy, and just working with that one?
There were a lot of challenges with Arctic. The biggest challenge being that I was the costume designer and the on-set costumer, and then that we had an illness, if you will, that knocked people out. This is way before COVID. This was it was an anomaly on set. But anyway, we had several people get sick, and we were left with just a very core crew. And it was very unfortunate, although it gave me an opportunity to step up, and I took over the on-set makeup, all of the makeup and all of the special effects. And I was initially assisting another artist, Michelle Bolin, and she was taken ill and had to leave the the shoot fairly early on. So I guess just the biggest challenge was, sort of going from focusing on one department to now I got to focus on the entirety of the art department, with the exception of we had an absolutely wonderful production designer, Christopher Scott, and he's phenomenal, both creatively and hands-on. And it just kind of became one of those moments where you have to step up and you've got to lay everything on the table. And it was very challenging, and it was phenomenal. And on top of that, on top of people getting ill, we were dealing with I think it was 14 or 15 days of entirely night shoots, and it ranged from about 6 degrees to about 16 degrees. So just that is taxing on the cast and crew's bodies, let alone add in all of the other elements of the special effects and the blood and just everything else. But that was it. That was a challenge, and continuity was like kind of mind blowing, because but it was also cool because it was just different. It's unique situations when you get to have that much creative control within that particular aspect of filmmaking. Usually it's, much more delegated, and you do very specific things. When you get the opportunity to do that, and actually Arctic for me was a great example, because it has one of the things that expanded my horizons to sort of an end goal, and something that I do as well as an art director. And being able to then, step up my game with the knowledge that I have, practical hands-on knowledge with these other departments, and then stepping into, the role as an art director. This goes back to what I was going to say earlier, communication. Whether I'm day playing on a set or whether I'm, functioning as an art director, communication is extremely important to me, because I feel like it's my job to do the best I can to bring whatever the director's vision is creatively to life. So, the more creative input and ability that I have to do that, as an art director, all the way down to just, doing day by day, maybe what I'm asked to do by my department head. But either way, it's extremely important to me, that understanding and fulfilling of the director's vision. And, I would expect the same of my crew and cast, if I was directing. So I think that communication and understanding vision is extremely important.
Yeah, and it goes back. I'll end it on this. Midian was mentioning this too. Is when you get on set, what I always appreciate is you make yourself invaluable. If you're there, you show up, and Josh said you go and you just give it 1,000,000%. If you're gonna leave, then you leave 1,000,000%. You leave at 1,000,000%. But if you're there, you give 1,000,000%. You make yourself invaluable, and that's of course why Roxy's been on all our other projects since that point. So for the word to everyone else out there, no matter what you're doing, even if you're waiting tables or busting tables or sending rockets to the moon, to Mars. To Mars. Make yourself invaluable. I know, Daniel, Robert, any last any things before we end the session?
No, I just want to say thanks, Midian and Josh and Roxy for coming out, and Robert, it's always good to see you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Robert. You guys did wonderful. And Roxy.
Thank you, Midian and Josh and Roxy. You guys are wonderful.
It's a pleasure to meet you guys, Josh and Midian. I look forward to crossing paths with you guys sometime in the future.
And we have a song here from Helium 3 with our music label. We have other artists coming on board. We've been working with a whole bunch of different artists, and here's this one, David Paratiaco. You guys enjoy, and you guys all have a wonderful rest of your week. Join us.
You can't keep living in the past. So what's your worry? Time traveler. Time traveler. Yeah. You can't keep living for tomorrow. You won't see the sunlight if you're hiding in the shadows of the dreams you have and things you think might take away your joy, but they're not here. So what's your hurry? So what's your hurry? Oh, time travel.